Okay, I am picking up where I left off just a moment ago. It's talking about dealing with stress, dealing with uncomfortable situations, and for the most part, there's not a real technique that I employ. I just kind of do it. Uh, it may not be the most helpful piece of information ever, but I just kind of focus on being as physically relaxed as I possibly can, as mentally relaxed as I possibly can, giving specific attention to things that are coming up as they're coming up. For instance, when I have intrusive thoughts or flashbacks about a specific period of time, I ask myself, what's at the root of these? Why are they coming up now? What is it about this current situation that is bringing these things to the surface, to the forefront of my conscious awareness? And sometimes there's a good answer, sometimes there's something that makes a lot of sense, other times not so much. Sometimes it's just, I'm exhausted, and something about this morning is stirring up the same sort of feelings that were involved in the experience, the original experience in the first place. And it can be as simple as that. There are elements of the weather that seem to be involved in it. There were similar physical feelings, especially dealing with fatigue from not having slept for long periods of time and having been overworked just by circumstances. This time I deliberately worked on what I was working on, and so there's a little bit of a difference there, but at the same time, the basic concept of having been very focused for a very long period of time and kind of having to hold things together with internal strength during experiences of stress is similar to what I went through during the break. And I wish I had more information to share about this. Um, but with the Ativan, which is a helpful tool when it is necessary, these flashbacks have begun to subside, and I got a little bit of sleep, which was good. I figure talking about this might be helpful. So I am. I had an appointment with my case manager. He's a nice guy. His name is Brian. Um, he's a licensed therapist. He's a pretty young guy. He's been working with me for 6 months or so now. And since I've begun seeing him, there has been a lot of progress made in my life. And, it's exciting for both of us. It's always nice to talk once every couple of weeks or so about what I've been doing and how I've been doing it, and what kind of improvements there have been, if any, and what kind of setbacks there have been, if any. And the general trend is that there are more improvements than setbacks, which is a nice thing. It's something that I like. It's something that has been a pretty strong indicator of actual recovery over the last 6 months or so. We've made a recovery plan. We don't stick to it. It was more just for the creation of the plan because it was necessary for him to do that for his company, for the company he is employed by. And so just more positive things, more things to check off on the to-do list and the goals list, more things to take note of. We both like collecting data. Data is helpful. The more data there is, the more understanding we can gain from whatever I'm going through. the better we are able to address situations as they arise. And I've been gaining a lot of data over the last 6 months, over the last year, over the last couple of years. Uh, you know, not to beat a dead horse or anything, but the data I have on diet and lifestyle choices like that has been the most powerful data for me. There seems to be the strongest correlation between diet and recovery. Um, I think I've mentioned this in a different video. I am slowly tapering off of meds. I'm taking my sweet time. I'm not rushing it, but I am taking the opportunity as it arises to taper off the meds. I'm working on a couple of different meds right now. I'm also giving myself the opportunity to increase the amount of meds that I'm taking, maybe increase one as one is reduced. Um, that's not actually how I've been approaching this. I've been largely just reducing, and I've been doing so only when I feel stable enough, I feel comfortable enough, symptoms are managed well enough that I can maintain a level of calm and quiet internally. If I didn't have a level of calm, a sufficient level of calm and quiet in my mind and in my body, if there were active positive symptoms of schizophrenia, I would not be decreasing my medications. But because things have been so quiet, I mean, on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being minimal, 0 being perfect, being totally normal, and 10 being hospitalization, I've been at about a 1 for the last week or two. And that is a good indicator that I can take a step forward in reducing the medications, the dosage of the medications, and the frequency with which I take them. Part of what I do when reducing the medication dosage is waiting for slightly longer periods of time between dosing. So let's say I average my first dose is taken at about within an hour of when I wake up in the morning. So generally speaking, I mean, my sleeping patterns have been off over the last couple of weeks, but let's say for the sake of this example that I wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning on average. So I'm taking my first dose of medication at about 8 a.m. Instead of taking my afternoon or evening dosage at the normal time, which a couple of weeks ago, the afternoon dosage was 5 milligrams of Abilify at about 4 p.m. I've stopped taking that afternoon dose, and I have moved it to, I've been taking it as late as sometimes midnight, sometimes a little bit earlier, sometimes a little bit later, and I've been taking about 2.5 milligrams as opposed to 5 milligrams. I just haven't felt the need to take it earlier than that or take the full dose that I was taking. The same goes with my other medication. Instead of taking it at 8 p.m., I'm taking it around the same time that I'm taking the Abilify. And so oftentimes that's midnight or 11 p.m., 10 p.m. And I'm not taking the full dosage at that point in time, but I do make a point of taking the full dose of this medication at some point before I go to sleep at night, just so I'm not pushing things too far and too hard to reduce the dosages, because I don't want to see backlash. I don't want to see things regress, and I don't want to experience more stress and pain and trauma and anxiety than I need to. I'm not a big fan of chaos. I tend to work decently well with chaos, but it is something that causes a great deal of dysfunction and incapacity, and I don't like that. I like working. I like being active. I like focusing on the things that matter to me, the things that are important to me. And so I would rather take more medication and feel more capable of accomplishing what I wish to accomplish than I would like to get off the medications. I mean, right now I see taking medication as kind of water under the bridge. I've been doing it for such a long time that the side effects of the medication, while they are still apparent and they still contribute to greater discomfort and overall disease,